Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Ignorant Intellectual on Media. So, I figured I had the day off today, so I figured I'd do a couple of videos. So, uh, this video, I figure I'll do the third installment of my music library, and we're still in the C's, so it's going to take me a while to get through all these great CDs, but it should be fun doing it. So, today I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 19 CDs to go through. Hopefully it won't be too long. And you'll get some more Canadian and American and other music in this library. And let's get started. Let's see what we got. All right. So the first album is Caribou, The Milk of Human Kindness. So Caribou um, is a Canadian guy. His name is Dan Snaith. Dan Snaith. It's hard to pronounce his last name. Snaith. Um, and I originally heard him um, when his name was Manitoba. I think his first name, like he takes these monikers or whatever, and his first name was Manitoba, but then there's some sort of lawsuit or something going on with him, so he changed his name to Caribou, and then this is his first, The Milk of Human Kindness. Now, if you watch any of my previous CD library albums, we're on C because I'm going through my first box uh, when I packed them away from the shelves, and the A's are down to the bottom of the box, then the B's, then the C's, right? So we're still on the C's, but we're going to go down to the B's and to the A's, and then and go forth from there. But um, I have not heard this, but it's on one of my flash drives because I got like 12, something like 12 flash drives full of my music. I just transfer them into MP3 or FLAC files, and then I put them on flash drive so I can plug them into my car and listen to my music. So this is all these CDs are on flash drives and a hard drive for me to listen to. It's just that I have not got there's so much of it that I haven't gotten to all of it. So this is one album that I don't know a lot about, but I've heard good things uh, about Caribou slash Manitoba, and so we'll see once I listen to it. Another Canadian musician that, if you want to learn about Canadian music, he's a guy that you could check out. All right, so that's Caribou. Next up after that is two albums by Neko Case. All right, so this one is called uh, Furnace Room Lullaby. All right, and it's actually with her band called Her Boyfriend. So it's Neko Case and her boyfriends. And this one is a solo album um, called Fox Confessor Brings the Blues. Now this one came out in 2006, and this one came out in 2000. So this is her second. So she's American, but many Canadians love her music because she started off. She was living in Vancouver because she was going to school in Vancouver, and she joined a band. Well, she sang with a band called the New Pornographers out of Vancouver, and the New Pornographers is another band, a Canadian band that maybe you should check out. They're really good in indie pop, indie rock, and she sang for them. And so a lot uh, a lot of Canadians know Neko Case from the New Pornographers, so they either mistake that she's Canadian, or she's kind of like a quote unquote honorary Canadian, right? And so this one is her second solo album with her band, her boyfriends, all right, and this one is her uh, solo. And this album I've listened to at least 20 times. This album I have not listened to yet. So this one, um, if you like, female-led rock songs, but not true. It's kind of quirky rock, right? So, if you like that kind of thing, in the vein of I don't know, Joni Mitchell, in the vein of what's her name from? Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. Anyways, um, I would suggest that if you're going to listen to any of her stuff that isn't in the new pornographers, um, this is the one that you should listen to, because when I listened to this one really blew me away. Um, during this time, I listened to this one and Liz Fair. It's funny because she opened, she may have opened for Liz Fair. I'm not sure, but anyways, Liz Fair and her. I got into both of them back in the mid 2000s, and just listened to this album over and over again. And Exile in Guyville by Liz Fair. But anyway, so this is a really good album. I don't know about this one yet because I haven't listened to it. Uh, but Neko Case is a great musician. So if you ever decide to delve into female-led music, Neko Case should be on your radar. All right. So next up is this band, which is called Carissa's Weird, but with weird spelled the I and E is reversed. And I had known nothing about this. I picked this up. Um, I picked up a group of about 500 CDs off this girl for like $50 and $50, and she had like 500 CDs of all like indie rock and 90s to 2010 music, of which I knew some of it. That's the reason why I wanted to pick that up, but a lot of it I just transferred onto a flash drive and I haven't listened to it, and this is one of them. All right. So I know that these guys are from are an indie rock band from Seattle, but not much else. Have you listened to them? All right. So next up is the Carpenters. All right. These are two of their compilation discs. This one being the more famous and bought one, but this one has a bunch of good music on it too. And uh, I wouldn't really collect the Carpenters albums per se, but I would. There are some songs by the Carpenters like again, ignorant intellectual. There's like probably 5 or 6 songs by the Carpenters that are great songs to listen to, and I like listening to them in the car. So I'll listen to it like that. Um, so everybody knows the Carpenters, don't have to really explain them, right? All right. So Cat Power. All right. So Cat Power. Her name is Chan Marshall, and on this album, which is her sixth, she has Dave Grohl on this album. She has Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam on this album, guesting on this album. Warren Ellis. So I haven't listened to it, but um, with those guys, I figured maybe I'd give her a shot, see what she's like. Now, once I come to her on one of my flash drives, I'll know whether I like her or not. Have you listened to that album? It's called "You Are Free," and it's her sixth album. It uh, came out in 2003. What do you think of it? And again, it's in a piece of plastic, plastic bag because it's made of paper. All right. So next up after that is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. Now these guys and Nick Cave. All right. So I have not listened to a ton of Australian music, but I have listened to a good amount of it. All right. And out of all of them, Nick Cave is probably the greatest Australian musician. All right. Hands down, I think. Now, not being Australian, maybe if anybody from Australia's listen to this YouTube video and thinks different, maybe leave a comment and let me know what you think is the greatest band slash artist in to come out of Australia. But I think Nick Cave is the guy. This one is extremely good. It's called Murder Ballads, and of course, it's about there's a whole tradition of songs that are ballad songs that talk about murder and other things, and there's a tradition of it, and Nick Cave picked it up. There's even one song. What is it called here? Where the Roses Grow. What number is that? That's number 5 on this album that Kylie Minogue actually guests on. So that's interesting. Kylie Minogue, the pop star from Australia. Anyway, so this one's really good. But the one that I enjoy most by Nick Cave is called "Let Love In," and that one just blew me away the first time I heard it, and I've listened to that album dozens of times. So if you haven't heard any Australian music or you haven't delved into any Australian music, Nick Cave is a good one to get into. All right, so that's Nick Cave. Next up is an American artist, and this is her fourth album, and it's kind of like a, a back to form album by Tracy Chapman. Now, her first album I heard when I was in a bar playing some pool, and it blew me away. And then so I picked that album up and I listened to it dozens and dozens of times. And then her second album came out. What was it named? Crossroads. Yeah, it was Crossroads, and that one was okay or whatever. And then her third album, uh, Matters of the Heart, was okay as well. But then this album came out, and this album was her return to form. And this album is almost as good as her first self-titled album. It has some great songs on it, like "Heaven's Here on Earth" and "New Beginnings," and "Smoke and Ashes" and "The Rape of the World." Anyway, so if you want to listen to uh, a girl with a deep voice, uh, sitting down with a guitar and playing a guitar and just singing, um, then she might be one for you. Um, Her first album was almost like a protest album about what's it like being black living poor in the United States, and this one kind of has the same type of feel to it and the same kind of music to it. So both of them pick up both of her first album and this fourth album are both worth your listen. All right, so next up is Clock Cleaner, which I know nothing about. That was in all those 500 CDs that I picked up from that girl. All I know is that they're a punk band from Philadelphia, and this is I don't even know if this is one of their albums. I don't think it is. I think it may be just one or a couple of songs on it or something. I'm not sure. Uh, Anyways, do you know this album? Have you ever listened to this album? Because I haven't heard it. Doesn't even have a list of songs on the back, right? So, all right. Next up is one of Canada's most loved artists, Tom Cockburn, and this is his third solo album after he left Red Rider. So um, he's a he's a he's a rock guy like Brian Adams, another Canadian artists who end up on the radio a lot. So I never really got into his music, but I keep picking up his CDs to get a CD that maybe I would really enjoy, and I haven't come across one yet. Right, so I don't really enjoy this one either. I haven't enjoyed his music since he left Red Rider, and I like one album, and particularly Lunatic Fringe off that album. Um, and that's what got me into Tom Cochran in the first place. But all of his solo work, I mean, Life is a Highway and all that, it's like pop rock music that, it's just in one ear and out the other. So I've never been a really big fan of Tom Cochran, but maybe you are. If you like basically straightforward rock in the classic form or whatever, you may like him. Not so much me though. But I bought the album, see if I could listen to it and get into him because he's such a Canadian icon, right? So, but no. So next up is another Canadian icon named Bruce Cockburn, and this is called Stealing Fire. And if you want any album uh, by him, this is probably his best album. So he went on, I don't know if it was on tour or he went traveling or whatever. He ended up traveling to Guatemala, Nicaragua, and those areas. Um, and he saw the the dirt poorness of those countries, and it it kind of broke his heart, and he ended up doing an album um, of the feelings that he felt after leaving there or during or while he was there, and this is that album, and it has his two of his most famous songs, which is "If I Had a Rocket Launcher" and "Lovers in a Dangerous Time," and those two songs are on this album. So if you want an introduction to Bruce Cockburn, this one isn't bad. It's Stealing Fire came out in 1984, and you'll see the greatness of Bruce Cockburn if you listen to this album. All right. So another great Canadian album. Up next is Elvis Costello and the Attractions, and this one is called Imperial Bedroom. And this is one of the greatest albums of the 1980s by so many people. And I've listened to it a few times, but I don't remember much from it. I was never a huge Elvis Costello fan, but for some reason, as you get older, you enjoy him more and more. So I'm just waiting to hear this album again on one of my flash drives, but I haven't come to it yet. So this one came out in 1982. It was his seventh album, and this actually is the Rhino version of that album that came out in 2002, and it has an extra disc to it, right? So it has the regular album, and it has a whole bunch of extras on the second disc. So all right, after that is one of Canadian music's greatest bands that nobody have ever heard of, which is more surprising, is less surprising than you think. All right, so the name of this band is called Copyright, but originally it was called Circle C, or the symbol for copyright. All right, and this is their second album, and this is one hell of an album. All right, I would now these guys are from Slow. I don't know if you've ever heard of Slow, probably not. They're an indie punk band from Canada that didn't last very long, and two of the band members from Slow ended up creating Copyright. And they came out with this album and another album. Both of those albums are classic Canadian albums. They're great, kind of like punk or post punk type of stuff, and it's some really good stuff. All right, kind of alternative rock, and if you want to try the album that put them on the map for most people who actually listened to it, was the Slow, and it was called Against the Glass, and it's one of the greatest Canadian punk albums of all time. So these guys, if you want to get into some Canadian music, but it took me like 5 years to find just this album, and I can't find the other one. So I don't know how easy it is to find their stuff, right? So all right, so next up is Alice Cooper's Trash, and I don't know why I picked this up. I kind of enjoy Alice Cooper, but I'm not a huge fan. It does have Poison on it, which is a cool song by him, but overall, he's okay. Next up after that is a indie rock band from Toronto, all right, and they're called Controller Controller, and they put out this album, which has only 6 songs on it. But if you like higher vocal, female-led indie rock, then these guys you should check out, because this album is extremely good. I find it one of the best Canadian albums of all time, short as it is. And it came out in 2004. It's their first album. They only did 2 albums, and then the lead singer, um, I can't remember her name, but she left the band, and the others went on to other stuff, right? So, but they were signed by Paper Bag Records in Toronto, and during this time, which is the mid 2000s, Toronto had a really, really, really good independent rock scene because of Records. They had the Broken Social scene, they had Tokyo Police Club, they had a whole bunch of Toronto indie bands that just blew up, and this is one of those bands. Now I don't know how much they blew up outside of Canada or even Toronto, but when I got a hold of this one, I listened to it, it blew me away. So if you want to take a look for it, this is called History, all right, and it's by Controller Controller. Next up is a hip hop mixed album by Controller 7. Now he um, put this out as a mixtape, if I remember correctly, and then it came out on CD. Um, but this wasn't sold in stores. This is like a promotional copy. It has like 31 remixes of a bunch of different music, right? And take a look at that. And it came with those 500 uh, CDs that I bought off that girl. So I haven't really listened to this yet. And last but not least is one of Canada's greatest folk country artists, who we talked about in previous videos, and that's Stompin Tom. And this is one of his best albums. It's called Stompin Tom and the Hockey Song. Okay, and this one came out in 1972. All right, so this is one of his early albums. Now he died in 2013, but by the time 2013 came around, he'd been in music for like 40 or more years, 50 years really, and he put out like, got to be like 40 or more albums, maybe even 50, but somewhere around 40 or 50 albums. And all of them are a lot easier to find on LP than they are on CD. And my preferred listening is get the CD, put it into an MP3, and listen to it in my car. So I have a few of his LPs that I'm going to use my turntable to, transfer into MP3 files, but it's really difficult to do that. It's so much easier to do it on a CD, right? So, but this is his album from 1972, and it has his probably his most famous. Well, there's a few of songs are famous of his, but probably his most famous song internationally is the hockey song, and you hear it in arenas around the NHL. So you probably heard that song. It came off of this album, and that's it. Those are the what did I say? 18, 19 CDs um, from my collection. A lot of Canadian music. The more and more I do this, the more and more I realize I have a lot of Canadian music, a lot more than I thought. It seems to be like at least half my collection so far. So maybe as we go on in the letters, there'll be more American or British or other countries' music in it. But I seem to collect a lot of Canadian music. So anyway, so that's that. I hope you enjoyed that. And if you've seen any albums that you liked, um, pick up a Stompin Tom. If you want to learn about Canadian music, if you can find that one, Controller is really good. Copyright, you won't find any of their stuff. It's very difficult to find it. You may if you're in Canada, but outside of Canada, I'm not sure. Has any American or British person that's listening to this video ever heard of this band or ever picked anything up? Leave it in the comments. Let me know because I had difficulty just finding this CD, right? And Elvis Costello, one of the greats. But Bruce Cockburn picked this album specifically. Try him out with this album, Stealing Fire. All right, Stealing Fire. Tom Cochrane, one of Canada's icons, but I don't really like him all that much. Who else? I think Neko Case is kind of Canadian, and of course Caribou, who's listen to his stuff, see what you think. All right. Anyway, so that's that. I hope you enjoyed the video. Um, leave a thumbs up if you did. If you want to join me by subscribing to the channel, I'd appreciate it. And we'll have another video very soon. And thank you for listening, and you have a good day. And bye for now.